Today I'm back with Carlos Garcia. Carlos Garcia and I spoke in a previous video article about pay-per-click and different advertising mediums. And I wanted to have him back because as important as it is to get traffic to your site or to your phone or whatever, it's super important that the welcome or the impression that you make when people do reach you is top notch. And that's another area that Carlos's firm, Please On Hold, comes into play. So Carlos and I are going to talk about what the impression is when people call you.
Yes.
And oftentimes, Carlos, we record those calls and we listen, and apparently there's a drop on the people on that end, right?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, George, again. Please Hold Advertising is my company. Started it in 1994, and our website is pleasehold.com. We've been producing on-hold messages now for 24 years, and it's something that, and professional voicemail greetings as well. Any interaction that you may have or your firm may have with the phone system or the callers calling into the office, invariably people are going to be put on hold. It's going to happen. It's a fact of life. I mean, as much as a business owner does not want to put anybody on hold, it happens more often than not. And a lot of people, I'm raising the awareness, what happens. I actually tell people, call yourself and call the main number, get put on hold. What do you have? Silence. You have some radio playing on hold, some staticky radio with commercials that you can't control, or you have some generic canned music playing on hold. Rather than that, we educate people how to take advantage of that completely wasted time and turn it into an image-enhancing opportunity for the business and for the company. So that
right. And I know a lot of times when we create these campaigns, the phone number they call isn't necessarily their main line. So you can set up a second phone number that then pushes them to a high priority queue or something. But in any case, what you want is, first of all, for the email, for the message to not say something like, hey, welcome to the law firm of, Fred, and Fred. And then, it's dragging. It'd be nice. It's like, hey, if you're responding in order, blah, 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 blah. Hey,
right.
Your call is super important to us. And of course, my voice
exactly.
is
Reinforce the marketing campaign, your marketing campaign, with a message that talks about, those efforts and talks about, the reason why they called, be it for family law, be it for other types of law, but any type of business can use this, really.
No, for sure. So let's kind of look at the different, I already referred to, we can have like a hotline that your people at the office know, hey, make sure you answer those right away because that line is only ringing because of some campaign that's running.
Exactly.
But another one is, hey, you get that person on the phone or they're calling back for the call with the attorney. And now it's like, hey, let me pass you over to the attorney. And it's like silent. And, maybe the attorney's not available like right there. So you got a minute or two where you can say something. So what could we present at that point?
Well, there's a variety of things that can be presented in the message on hold. We can talk about the firm's history. We could talk about its specific legal services. We could talk about the background and education of the attorney or the attorneys on staff. We could talk about community outreach that the firm does.
Yeah, see, that's an interesting one because let's say they're very involved with, I don't know, my daughter heads up Live Like Bella, which is a local child cancer.
Yes, very familiar with it.
Or it could be, one of the local hospitals or, the homeless children. But it shows that you're more than just a law firm of stiff, people with ties.
Right.
And I think that's important, especially with something as personal as family law.
Yes, exactly. So the message, we custom tailor the message. My company, Please Hold, we actually will write the content of the message. We'll look at the law firm's website, any marketing materials. We'll then present it to the firm. They'll review it, make any edits. Once we have the final, we'll go in the studio with either male or female voice talent. By the way, these are real voice talents. They're not computer generated. And
let me ask you something about that because I met Carlos on the phone before I met him in person. And
Yeah.
he's got like, you're like a radio voice, right?
Yeah, I've been told.
What should people consider? Should it be a guy? Should it be a lady? And then some people say, hey, use a British voice because we Americans think that Americans are that Englishmen are that much smarter.
Right. Well, actually, we do. That's a very good point. We do offer a variety of different accents, and British is one of the more popular ones for a business that wants to have a sophisticated sound. We work with a lady out of London that does our British recordings. But male or female, English and Spanish, a combination of English and Spanish, or a combination of male and female is possible. Every script and every production that we do at Please Hold Advertising is totally customized to the law firm. So there's something that is unique to the firm. You won't hear that message anywhere else. And it's the majority of them, I will say, in my industry, 70% of the recordings that we do are with female voice, but there might be instances where a law firm might require a male voice to sound, more authoritative in certain cases. We've sued everyone from Disney World to BMW, blah blah. It depends. Every script and the delivery of every message is unique and different. Nothing is cookie cutter that we do. So it's very unique.
Right. And keep in mind that, so I'm searching for divorce attorney, child custody attorney, prenup attorney. And I do these searches all the time, just as in our testing, and you get a list of names, and it's Morgan and Morgan, and it's Rothschild and Levy and blah, blah, blah. They're just names to people. And when they arrive at the site, we try to make it so that it's now a person. It's not just some vague name. So we definitely want to put the picture of the attorneys or attorney if it's just a single person practice.
Yes.
And we want to continue that when we get to the other, when we get a phone call. So that's why it's so important, first of all, to have your receptionist not just, doing this while she's doing 600 other things. I mean, these people are going to be busy, but it's kind of like when that phone rings, they're coming off an experience on a site that you're trying to continue. And if I'm going to, 3, 4, 5 sites, and all of them are kind of a little bit staid and whatever, and then it's like, gosh, this one's interesting. And now I get to the receptionist, and the receptionist is, hi, this is the office of, Fred and Fred, whatever. And it's kind of like, and they're kind of prepared for what the person might be calling about because they understand they came from a web search. They went to a landing page. Now I put you on hold and you're up next.
Yes.
And so this is part of this image that we're trying to present, right?
Exactly. And the phone image is something that I speak a lot about in Please Hold Advertising is the phone image. When the caller calls different firms, they might have gone from Google and say, I'm going to call 2 different firms or 3 different firms. The one thing that can distinguish you is the way that the phone is answered by your receptionist. If you have an incoming voicemail greeting, how does it sound? Is it professional? And if the caller happens to be put on hold, that experience, was it silent? A lot of people that are put on hold with silence think that they have been forgotten, and they think, well, they forgot me, they left me on hold, did they hang up on me? And they hang up and then they try to call back. If they're listening to a message that's focused about your law firm, talking about your services and your community outreach and your recent accomplishments, this is very engaging, and it's distinguishing because it helps retain the attention of the caller. Because today, what do? Everybody's on their phone. They're looking at their phone while they're waiting, and they start wandering onto the internet saying, maybe this law firm is too busy to handle my call. I'm going to hang up and call somebody else. But if they're listening to something on hold, now they're putting this down and focusing on an interesting message that's talking about the individual attorneys, like that photo of the attorney on the website. Very important. We talk about the attorney and talk about his education and, other accolades that he might have. And that is something, or she might have, that they're very, very important.
Yeah. And let me give you an example. For example, there's law firms that have very Hispanic sounding names, Perez, Hernandez, and someone else. Now, and let's just take Miami, because you and I are both in Miami, and we have a good number of well-educated professionals that, like me, are Spanish speakers and English speaker. My preference is English just because I was educated here. I don't know about you, but I write much better in English. But I may have a bias towards another person like me. And so if I get on an on hold and it's a English speaker with a not strong, but a present Spanish accent, that could play that part. So I'm making this up a little bit, but the idea is you want to make sure, just like you're honing your website and your messaging to a specific audience, you can customize this so that you're really targeting and continuing with a persona that you want to make sure that your prospects get. Exactly.
And that can be custom tailored. Absolutely. We provide a lot of messages. Our niche at Please Hold Advertising is the ability to deliver a bilingual on-hold message. Here in Miami, in certain markets like New York or Los Angeles, there are a lot of Hispanic people. And when we put somebody on hold, of course, this is the United States, it's got to be in English, but we can translate it. Some clients actually want more Spanish. Like, for example, I work with a lot of immigration attorneys.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If I'm a Latin American and I want an immigration attorney, if it's English, that in of itself might be, it's like, okay, they're not for me.
Right. It might be a turnoff. So we can make it in Spanish. And, some businesses that want to have English and Spanish, we have a unique thing called fillers, where it's predominantly English. I would say 85% of the message is in English. And we sprinkle in a few very small lines that say, thank you for holding. Someone will be with you in just a moment. Por favor, esperen la línea. Estaremos con usted en un momento. Spoken in Spanish. And it acknowledges the Spanish, but doesn't take up a lot of time on the message on hold. It's mainly English, but a little bit of Spanish. And
and for example, I understand both languages. If I heard that, it's kind of like, okay. And for example, I have a cousin who got divorced, and he speaks English, but his preferred language is Spanish.
Right.
I could refer him to that firm, and he'd go, okay, English. Oh, look, they speak Spanish. And that's all you really need to drive through. It's like, look, this isn't a English-only firm.
Exactly. And that's one thing that especially Hispanics, as you know, they feel catered to. There's a rapport instantly when they start hearing or seeing things, a website, a page that is in Spanish. They call in and they hear Spanish on the hold a little bit on there. But it's definitely a big factor as far as the image and the enhancement of the business.
Cool. Now, let me ask you, are there other ways, besides just like online hold, that you've seen people use, your services effectively?
Well, we also do a big part of it I haven't mentioned yet is the voicemail greetings, like the very first greeting that says, thank you for calling the law firm of Diaz, Gonzalez, and Soto.
Yeah.
If you know your party's extension, please enter it now. For new cases, press 1. For the status of your case, press 2.
Which may not be coming off the web. It's just someone, hey, I got to call them, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. That type of a greeting, we can redo the greetings. A lot of times people do their own voicemail greetings, so they sound like the head cook and bottle washer at the firm.
Right. And here's the thing. You're using a good microphone. I'm using a good microphone.
Right.
Sometimes people are recording these off of their cell phones, and
it's terrible.
The quality's so, and then, hello, this is the message of Diaz, and it's like, come on.
Right. It's too much. Another thing is we also do a lot of other types of greetings. We do voiceovers for PowerPoint presentations, talking websites. We've done presentation videos, voiceovers, and instructional training videos, things like that. Anywhere where a human voice is needed for the purposes of communicating, my company can definitely help out.
Yeah, and by the way, see, that becomes really effective. Like, let's say we're doing Facebook ads.
Right.
And we're trying to kind of plug something, and we're using like an animated cartoon.
Yes.
To explain something. A lot of times the services that do that include the voiceovers, but it's almost like the voiceover is secondary.
Yes.
And so, one idea, and as a matter of fact, I'm doing this myself, is I create a script. I have the voiceover done, and, with someone, clearly a professional like you guys.
Sure.
And then I give that to the animators.
Right.
You know, so the voice is already there, and now it's kind of like coming up with, hey, the storybook is this.
Right.
And that's great because you also get the smarts that would come from an organization like yours that kind of, you know, understands the marketing and that thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the best way for people to hear what my company, Please Hold Advertising, can do is on our website, pleasehold.com. We have hundreds of samples. If you go to the audio sample page of the website, where there's samples of law firms, car dealers, food distributors, pharmaceutical companies, we have literally done over 5,000 on-hold messages in 20.
Well, let's do this. When I publish this, let's get a couple of samples, especially ones
Absolutely.
that are specific to attorneys.
Yeah. I can send you some links. You can post on the blog.
Yeah. And then you've already told. So if anybody wants to get a hold of Carlos, pleasehold.com is his domain.
Yes.
So on there you can, you know, find all that.
Yes.
And let's make sure we include some samples, because I think if you hear them, you can appreciate what a good one sounds like, and then you can compare that to your own firms and
exactly
see, you know, how much of an improvement you can make.
That's a big thing. Yeah, listening is believing. You hear it, and many times people go to the website and they call me, and I hear the message playing in the background from the website. And they say, "Hey, I'm on your website. I just heard this immigration attorney. We're an immigration attorney here in Miami, and we want it to sound very similar to that one, but, you know, different things that we do." So it's a big point for people to actually hear samples on our website at pleasehold.com.
Great. Well, Carlos, hey, thank you very much.
Thank you, George.
This is something that makes a lot of sense, you know, for the kind of customers that we serve. And it's a little bit off the beaten path with the content that we typically cover. But it's kind of like, if you don't have all your ducks in a row, all you need is one thing to be like way off, and people are going, do I really want to hire these people? Right.
Well, that's the thing, is today we have FaceTime and all these things, but it still comes down to a business, comes down to a phone call. And that's still a way that we communicate, especially in law firms, via the phone.
Cool. Hey, well, thank you very much, Carlos.
Thank you, George, as always.